Hello, Younger Oldie here and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to be discussing the topics which will be covered during Element D when you are taking your CBT. So stay tuned and cue the intro. Conspicuity. That's a hard one to say, that is. Basically, it's making yourself more visible to other road users. And how can we do this? The first thing what springs to mind is headlights, dipped headlights when you're riding. A lot of bikes now you don't get a choice, the headlights are on, as soon as you turn the ignition on. But there's other things we can do. We can wear high vis, reflective, fluorescent. The difference between reflective and fluorescent is obviously fluorescent is basically the green, which will sort of stand out in daylight, and obviously the reflective is usually the silver sort of strips which will bounce back the light shone from another headlight. They both make us more visible. You can get vests, you can get Sam Browne belts. On a lot of my motorbike clothing I have the silver reflective strips, which comes pretty standard now, and again they will sort of pop out and reflect light, so they will make you a little bit more easy to be seen. Think about your road positioning. You ride in somebody else's blind spot and they're not going to see you there. You see the signs on the back of lorries. If you can't see my mirrors, I can't see you. Hold back, move to a position where that lorry can see you. It's all about sort of taking a little bit of responsibility and to make sure that you are at all times visible to other road users. Keeping your bike clean. Okay, I've got a black bike, that doesn't sort of shine out very much, but at the end of the day, if it's shiny, light will still reflect off it. So all this is just designed, here again, just to make yourself more visible. So avoid riding in another road user's blind spot. Don't ride a dirty bike, and don't wear completely dull dark clothing. Make sure you've got something on it which can reflect and to make you more visible. Legal requirements. Basically, these are the things you're going to need to legally ride a motorbike on the road. Firstly, you're going to need some form of license, maybe a provisional, maybe a full car license. But if you're riding a bike of 125cc, then you need to have your CBT certificate or your DL196 along with your license to be legal. You're also going to need tax. All vehicles, unless it's one of the old classics, do need vehicle tax. MOT. If your vehicle is over 3 years old, then obviously you are going to need an MOT certificate. Likewise, some of the classic vehicles do not require an MOT, but as most part, yeah, that's what we need. We're also going to need insurance. Now, obviously, be it fully comprehensive, third party or third party fire and theft, we have to have insurance. L plates. Now, obviously these L plates need to be mounted on the rear and the front of the motorbike. They mustn't be cut down or modified. You see a lot of people with, they cut all the white off and just got a tiny little L stuck on the front. You can actually get pulled over for that. And also, never forget, we need a helmet. A helmet which obviously must be approved and must be worn and correctly fastened. All these things are needed just to make sure that you are legal to ride on our roads. Speed. You need to understand and realise why riding at the correct speed is so important. Riding too slowly can be just as much of a problem as riding too fast. So if you're only riding a 50cc bike, which is only capable of 28-30 mile an hour, be aware that having a lot of cars behind you building up, it's not your fault, you can't go as quick. But do be aware that it can cause problems. They will do anything to try and get by you. So it's just something to take into consideration. Always remember, the legal speed limits. But the legal speed limit is not a target. If the road conditions don't allow you to ride at that speed, then don't do it. If the roads are wet or if it's just been resurfaced or gritted, you might be the 60 mile an hour limit. But it's not safe to ride at 60 mile an hour. So, take that into consideration. Always bear in mind that other people's speed limits. Now, if I'm towing my caravan, I am restricted to 60 mile an hour. However, because when I'm towing my caravan, because I don't like to do it, I'm driving like Miss Daisy. So I'm probably not doing 60 mile an hour. So do take into consideration other people's speed and what they can do. Always ride within the speed limits and not your ability. Just because you might be able to take that bend at 80 mile an hour doesn't mean you should do. Always remember, you need to develop a defensive riding style so that you can always stop, A, within your range of vision, and B, in case of a potential hazard which could turn into a real danger. Vulnerability. As motorcyclists, we are generally more vulnerable than other motorists. We've got to understand the dangers of falling off, a collision even at low speed. We're more vulnerable to weather, be it cold or be it hot. We're more vulnerable to road surfaces than we would be as if it was in a car. Your head and your limbs are the most exposed parts of your body when riding. Make sure you've got the right safety equipment to protect these parts of the body. As mentioned in my other videos, always get the best protective equipment you can afford. Don't use a helmet that's damaged or second hand, or if it's a bad fit. Always make sure your helmet is fastened correctly. Never ride without protective clothing, and never ride too fast for the conditions which you are riding in. The highway code. Okay, you have to ask yourself, who is the highway code for? Basically, it's for everybody who uses our public highway. There's things in there which you will need to know. Don't just treat it as a book which you have a quick look at when you're about to take a test. I know that's what I did years ago when I took my car test. I had to read the highway code because they ask you questions. 17, 18 years later, I took my bike test. Once again, I read the highway code. Never looked at it again for a couple of years until I went into instructor training, and then I had to once again look at the highway code. Now I'm always looking at the highway code. I discuss it with trainees when we're doing this element on the CBT. We have trainees then going on to the theory test. So it is something which you need to keep on top of, and you need to be aware of any changes. The things do change. In the highway code, you'll see a section purely just for motorcyclists, and part of it will say you must wear an approved helmet. It must be correctly fastened. We advise that you wear correct motorcycle clothing. So there's a lot of legal bits in there of do's and don'ts. Bear in mind, if you was ever stopped by the police for an offence and you say, well, I didn't know that, officer, basically you still get done, because the fact is you should know it. Okay, so there's a lot of useful information in there, so have a read of it now and again, and basically just keep yourself up to date with any changes that are made within the code. Anticipation, or riding defensively. Basically, at all times you should ride defensively and anticipate the actions of other road users. You will need to learn to plan well ahead. Look at the road. Is this car going to pull out on me? Might he pull out on me? A lot of this sort of links into hazard perception as well. You will develop a good hazard awareness. Concentrate at all times. Always, when you're out on the road there, think, I'm the most important person here. any of these other vehicles could do something which can endanger me. So anticipate anything which might happen. I was following a car not so long ago, and I could see the driver was looking everywhere. You know, his eyes were all over the place, and I just had the feeling, you know what, I think this guy's looking for his turning. Sure enough, he just turned right completely. Did not check his mirror, didn't indicate, didn't do anything. Now, I anticipated that something like this was going to happen. If I'd have been overtaking him at that point and he decided to turn right without giving any notice whatsoever, then I would have been in the similar situation as the guy outside my wife's work, last week. So anticipate what other people might be able to do on the road. Anticipation is a skill that develops over time. Things that show a sign of lack of anticipation include harsh braking, being distracted, and not taking road and weather conditions into account. Rear observations. It's important that rear observations actually do include a combination of using your mirrors and also the appropriate shoulder checks or lifesavers, whichever you call them. If we're just riding in a straight line down the road and we're not changing our position, then there's no need to keep looking over our shoulder. Really, we should be looking where we're going, so it's eyes forward. But we can use the mirrors to sort of check in general what is around us. However, we then approach that parked car. Yes, I check my mirrors, but then before I turn, I would then give a check over my right shoulder to make sure nobody's in my blind spot. So it's the timing of it which is correct. It's no good doing it half a mile down the road, because a lot can happen, even within a few yards. As discussed when I was doing turning rights from a major to a minor road on the video. Getting your timing is correct. Doing it too early is no good. Doing it too late, you're only going to see what's just hit you. So, learn your rear observations. Also, when we do check over our shoulder, always remember to keep your arms straight. It's no good turning your head over your shoulder and moving your arm back. Or basically, you're just going to make the bike steer off course. Correctly timed rearward glances are important as a safe part of riding, but remember, don't lose track of what's in front of you. So I hope you found part 1 interesting. So please check out part 2 and hope you'll enjoy the rest of it.